The night was strangely silent. It was the final days of November, the kind of night when the cold air feels heavier than usual, as if it carries memories no one dares to recall. On the far edge of the city stood an old abandoned mansion. Once it had been a symbol of wealth and power. Now it was nothing more than a fading shadow of history. Broken walls, shattered windows, and corridors filled with dust and forgotten echoes. People in the nearby villages spoke about the house in hushed voices. They said that anyone who spent a night there never returned the same. Some came back with empty eyes and trembling hands. Some never came back at all. Ranju had always dismissed such stories as superstition. He was a young researcher, fascinated by the psychology of fear, by the invisible forces inside the human mind that shape perception, memory, and reality itself. For him, fear was not a ghost in the dark. It was a chemical reaction, a neurological response, a narrative constructed by the subconscious. And tonight, he intended to prove it. Carrying a camera, a voice recorder, and a small torchlight, he stepped toward the rusted iron gate of the mansion. The metal creaked softly as he pushed it open. The sound seemed unnaturally loud in the stillness. As soon as he crossed the gate, something changed. The wind stopped. The distant barking of dogs faded away. Even the faint hum of the city disappeared, as if he had stepped into another dimension where time itself moved differently. He paused for a moment, listening to the silence. It was not the comforting quiet of a peaceful night. It was a heavy, suffocating silence, the kind that presses against your chest and makes every breath feel uncertain. He forced a faint smile. "This is exactly what I came for," he whispered to himself. Inside the mansion, the air smelled of damp wood and long decayed memories. Dry leaves scattered across the marble floor cracked under his shoes, sending sharp echoes down the endless corridor. Spider webs hung like torn veils from the ceiling. The walls were scarred with dark stains, as if the house itself had once bled and never healed. He raised his torchlight, the narrow beam cutting through layers of dust. Shadows stretched and twisted along the walls, moving in ways that felt almost deliberate. Then he heard it, a slow, dragging sound from the upper floor, a heavy, rhythmic scrape, as if something unseen was being pulled across the wooden boards. His heart skipped a beat, but curiosity pushed him forward. He checked his watch. 1:17 a.m. The staircase groaned under his weight as he began to climb. With every step, the sensation of being watched grew stronger. Not by eyes he could see, but by a presence that seemed to exist just beyond perception. At the top of the stairs, he stopped abruptly. A door stood half open at the end of the corridor. From inside, a faint bluish light spilled out like mist. There was no electricity in this house, no source of power. Yet the light pulsed softly, as if it were alive. He approached slowly, his breath shallow and measured. With trembling fingers, he pushed the door open. In the center of the room stood an old mirror. Its frame was cracked and eaten by time. Dust covered its surface, yet the glass itself remained strangely clear, like a window into another reality. Ranju stepped closer and looked into it. He saw his reflection staring back. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he noticed something deeply unsettling. The figure in the mirror was not perfectly synchronized with his movements. When he blinked, the reflection blinked a fraction of a second too late. When he raised his hand, the mirrored hand lingered behind, as if obeying a different rhythm. A chill spread through his spine. Then the reflection slowly smiled. Ranju froze. His own lips had not moved. A whisper echoed through the room, soft, intimate, and terrifyingly close. "You came to study fear. But have you ever faced your own?" Before he could react, the doors slammed shut behind him. His torch flickered and died. Darkness consumed the room. Only the mirror continued to glow. Inside it, the distorted version of himself began to step forward. Its face twisted into an unnatural shape. Its eyes turned completely black, empty voids swallowing all light. As it emerged, waves of forgotten memories crashed into his mind. He saw himself as a child, standing alone in a dark room, hearing his mother's frightened scream from behind a locked door. He felt again the helpless terror he had buried for years, the guilt of surviving, the fear of confronting what he could never change. He finally understood. This house was not haunted by spirits of the dead. It was built from the fears of the living. Every person who entered left behind a fragment of their darkness, and over time, those fragments had grown into something conscious, something hungry. The mirror shattered with a deafening crack. From the broken shards emerged countless shadowy figures. They drifted through the air like smoke, their shapes constantly shifting. Laughter echoed. Crying followed. Then came the long, unbearable sound of human agony. All the voices merged into one chilling chorus. Now, you are one of us! Ranju tried to run, but his feet refused to move. An invisible force held him in place, binding him to the cold floor. The shadows surrounded him, dissolving into his body like ink into water. His scream never reached the outside world. The next morning, villagers gathered near the mansion. They found his camera lying in the pale sunlight, untouched. But Ranju himself had vanished. Later, when they checked the footage, they discovered a final recording. In the last frame, he stood before the mirror. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. Behind him, dark shapes slowly formed, rising like a living night. And just before the video ended, his voice whispered softly through the static. Fear never truly leaves us. It only waits for the right moment to come alive. Because sometimes the greatest horror is not what hides in abandoned houses. Sometimes it is what hides within the human soul.